All right. Well, let's just continue, shall we? Welcome to an odd Friday night activity. See how far we've got 10 minutes already in. So we're doing fucking damn well. Damn well. Okay, take it over. Piero through the eyes of Mendihan.
These are personal attacks against my integrity, fuckhead.
Yes. Yes, your integrity is nowhere to be found, really. You seem to have lost your integrity.
You're the one lying about me. I'm not lying about you, asshole.
No, you are. You do lie about me, and I'm not lying about you. You're a hypocrite. You you complain that physicists create things like the Huygens principle to underpin their theories, and you create red and blue arrows to underpin yours. That makes you a hypocrite. I'm not a hypocrite. I think you should invent red and blue arrows. You just shouldn't bitch about scientists that invent their own devices that explain their way of looking at things.
So he's saying that my explanation of kinetics and explaining how physics is little tiny things, and Feynman talking about rain.
No, talking about if there's gravity pressure, there would be friction in space.
Drops was totally inappropriate because force.
No, not totally inappropriate that you didn't deal with it except for with inventing a new word, saying, "Oh, I solved that with I said the word kinetics." It's like you're just like Theoria, except for that you don't actually use as big of words. You use words like Brownian motion and expect them to have the same effect.
Forces aren't raindrops. Forces don't interact with other forces. That's a known fact. So force.
That's also a known irrelevancy to the thing you are allegedly answering.
Creating ether drag is kind of Feynman could have, I think, if he had a little bit of physics imagination and thought about it in terms, look, he can invent. Feynman's okay thinking.
Oh, if only Feynman was able to use his imagination on the subject of physics. Imagine what he could have accomplished.
About virtual photons creating magnetism, and yet he couldn't think of some kind of virtual photon solution to the problem of drag for a, how is it described in the 300?
And remember, the subject is the hypocrisy that you advocate inventing virtual photons to justify your system, and then you act like it's a terrible, terrible thing when people find that they have to invent virtual photons. No, it's a part of the scientific process. So even though what you're doing is not science, you're sharing that with the scientific process. And the problem is you're a hypocrite and you criticize the scientific process for including that. That practice of inventing red and blue arrows out of your ass.
100-year-old theory, ultra mundane particles.
And the self-delusion, because it's too much for it to be a lie.
Oh, yeah, right, whatever. The self-delusion, it's too much to be a lie. So I've perpetrated some lie. I wish you would give me a direct quote of my lies. So,
well, I have done right there. You've just been ignoring it. I was just describing your hypocrisy. And, what do they call that? Cameo.
Isn't that the ultimate coward? They make a claim about you being something, this aggressive claim against your character, and yet he can produce no quotes of the lies. I'm showing you.
Yeah, no, you just talked over it so much that now you're on another subject. But me and the audience here realize that the subject is still, you're talking about my accusation that you are a hypocrite for inventing blue and red arrows, but bitching about the Huygens principle.
His lies, okay? He's going to overtly and directly say things that aren't fucking true.
Nope. And you never point out any time that that's happened.
And I've proved them not to be true.
You haven't even addressed them. You address other things. I say XYZ, and you go, well, ABC is stupid. That's what you do.
I've explicitly shown people testifying to their not truthness, and he's going to keep claiming it.
He's shown people testifying to their not truthness. God only knows what he's talking about. What thing? Oh yeah, there doesn't actually have to be a thing because this is just a rhetorical technique.
Saying things like, well, they won't do the single slit experiment.
Okay, I never said they won't do the single slit experiment.
Yes, you have.
See how that's just a lie?
No, you're lying right now.
What I have said is they haven't described the single slit experiment accurately.
I showed you the hyperphysics page that showed the single slit experiment with diffraction lines in it. So you know that exists. You say it doesn't.
They'll always show it as being, oh look, it's just this and this and this. Yeah, it's nothing. There's nothing to see here, because they, yes, obviously have the slit width too narrow, and all they have to do is widen.
Okay, did you notice before he was saying Feynman just says it's a lump? Now he's going, they just say it's this thing with that's many lumps. What the fuck are you even talking about, dude? That's what it is. It's a thing of just like you just drew, like they just say that it is. The width of the slit. Okay, for everybody watching, how much diffraction you get from a wave depends on the width of the wave and the wavelength. I mean, the width of the slit and the wavelength of the wave. If those match, if the width of the slit is exactly the wavelength of the wave, if I recall correctly, that's when you get the most bending and the most diffraction, most lines. If you change the size, it'll change the pattern, and every time the slit is a whole number wide of the wavelength, as the wavelength is long, then you'll see a sharper and sharper pattern, and then it'll go blurry and just be a lump again, and then you'll see the lines again. All totally predicted by wave equations. And we're not talking about quantum mechanical wave, just all waves, water waves, any kind of wave.
This little slit just a little tiny bit, and all of a sudden they get a pattern that's exactly like the two slit experiment, except it's a little bit brighter in the center.
Yeah, and if you ever looked into the mathematics, well, you couldn't, you wouldn't understand it. But if somebody that can understand the mathematics looks at it, there's an explanation, because how much diffraction happens, oh my God, the wavelength of the wave and the width of the slit are both in that equation. So they matter.
And that's the only difference, fundamentally.
Fundamentally.
Shows diffraction.
Okay.
Fundamentally, that's my version of the word hyperboloid.
So he's saying it's something, it's diffraction. I've played Professor Lewin, the professor at MIT, the most famous professor at MIT, actually. I've played him stating overtly and aggressively that there is no diffraction here. It's exactly the same function. He claims the same function. Single slit, double.
Yeah, diffraction is an interference pattern. Interference is an interference pattern. Right? So what we normally call interference, that's an interference pattern. Diffraction lines, interference pattern. Guess what? A wave propagating through space, through water, through whatever medium, also is an interference pattern. Interference is something that waves are always doing. Always, everywhere they are. And that's what he's saying, is that it's really just a kind of an interference pattern. Yeah. When you cut off parts of a wavefront, you have these dangly ends and you start to see interference patterns. When you don't cut it off, it just, the mathematical result is the interference pattern doesn't make dark lines. It keeps the wave going. But see, when you've paused 1,000 times right now, you don't even know what I'm talking about anymore.
Double slit, it's exactly the same function. There isn't something else happening with the single slit. It's exactly the same.
Yeah, it's wave mathematics. It's wave mechanics in both cases. Yes, that's our position.
Function. I've played him saying that.
Light is a wave. In fact, that electrons diffract, that shows that electrons are waves.
So again, now we're not going to use the word interfere in pattern. Now we're going to use the word diffraction and pretend that we can have a rational conversation by saying I'm going to call it diffraction when I want it to be, when it doesn't have to be quantum, and then when it's quantum, I'm going to call it interference pattern.
No, interference is always going on. Diffraction is what happens when you cut off part of the wave and it bends around what would be the geometric shadow and goes into the geometric shadow.
And yet it's the same exact pattern.
Which you could probably read at Wikipedia.
Because diffraction is a wave phenomenon.
Well, again, he's claiming diffraction. The only way you can have a diffraction, that is essentially a absorption and readmission at a new angle, a non-regular reflection.
No, it's not an absorption and an emission at a new angle at all.
Let's call it, is through a wave function. So again, we're back to the same argument. That I'm just saying, get rid of the word diffraction. I don't care. Get rid of it. All right. If you're going to claim you own the word, and the word only relates to one thing, the spreading of a wave, then I'm still going to say in the single slit experiment, you have no evidence of any wave spreading.
You draw it coming out as a you do have evidence of the wave fanning out, because the pattern on the screen that the wave or photon or whatever it is makes is not just a little narrow spot, it's fanned out. So, what? Fuck.
Ether drag is kind of, Feynman could have, I think, if it were a flying to their not truthness, and he's going to keep overtly and aggressively that there is no diffraction here. It's exactly the same function. He claims the same functions. Okay, so he's backing up his claim that if you treat the two experiments the same way, that is, say if I have two dots, I mean, I'm making water waves to create diffraction, and we know that they go out this way, and that these two water drops would interfere with each other, okay, and create a pattern out here that would go something like this. All right, we know that's what's going to happen, but we know if we jiggle this one twice as fast, we're going to change that pattern. And we certainly know that if you do a single slit with water waves, with regular flat waves at a regular frequency that is not too agitated, okay?
Too agitated. It just matters what the frequency is. They could.
Without turbulence, okay, that you're just going to get this.
The thing is, diffraction is stronger. The pattern is easier to resolve, to see, the shorter the wavelength in the case of water, because you're reducing, you know what, fuck it.
This is what's going to come out the other side. And all the physicists would agree that's what's going to happen. All right, that's the fact. You're not going to get a bar pattern. You're not going to get anything like the
I showed you a bar pattern in water.
Single slit pattern in light. And he keeps lying that the evidence says the other something else. That the evidence.
No, I'm not lying. I'm either wrong or you're wrong, and I think we all know which of us is wrong. And if it's me, then you should do the laser theory, right? Do the laser theory experiment and see.
Evidence says something else, because he can put fake water waves in here. That is, he can
fake water waves, but mind you, with real water.
Agitate this water to a frequency the medium can't absorb or transmit, and it creates diffraction in the source. So he creates a diffracted source and then sends it through a slit and calls that an honest experiment. So he treats one experiment completely.
That's a reverse engineering of why what he's seeing doesn't make sense. That isn't what happened at all.
Different than he treats the other experiment and calls that honest science. And he says that's a legitimate way to do science.
Yes.
That's good evidence.
And you're a hypocrite.
And that doesn't bother any of you fucking cunts.
Nope, just you.
Okay, so it's a serious amount of self-delusion for me to say if you're going to do an honest experiment, you keep the environmental circumstances the same. If you're going to...
No, but you're not... That's not even an issue. That does happen. No, this is a tangent. That's not why I'm saying that.
Claim that there's single slit diffraction, okay, in water waves, then do the same thing to the double slit. Put in hyper-turbulent waves into the source on the double slit experiment and show me that you get the right pattern. Show me how your math predicts the right pattern then.
Why? Why should I? You don't respect math. That would not convince you.
You lying piece of shit. You're just a liar, a fraud, a fake, a phony. You're defending a fucking lie. You're defending goddamn fake fossils, for fuck's sake. This is a fraud.
And you're like the...
Fire and say there is no fire. The religious conviction that Gary has is...
Okay, so again, this
the religious conviction that Gary has, that's the new subject.
Reversal of the circumstance, right? They're actually saying that evolution is a religion now. So if you believe in evolution...
No, nope. Look, so I said that I'm going to accuse him of having a religion, so he's going to say what religion I'm going to insult. It's evolution.
Evolution, that's a faith religious theory.
No, evolution is a scientific theory.
That's actually what these fucking cunts are doing. So now...
No, your belief in your folk wisdom and common sense, that's the religion.
It's a religious theory to say you've destroyed...
It's a religious theory to believe in your common sense over the evidence.
Distorted the evidence. So as soon as I say you've distorted evidence...
No, as soon as you say you're going to deny evidence that's real...
I'm now a religious person.
No, it's that you're denying real evidence.
His own personal common sense.
Well, again, so he keeps taking this back to common sense. No, I'm adding up the evidence. I'm saying there's no evidence for your Tinkerbells.
You have said it needs to be simple and make sense to your common sense, or else that's stupid. How could they possibly think these thoughts that aren't common sense?
There's certainly no evidence for your Mighty Mouse and your Bowinkle and your Top Cat, okay, and living in...
Right, because that's all relevant.
Garbage can. There's no evidence of your Huygens, your Heisenberg, your wave theory. There's no nail in the...
There's no evidence for red and blue arrows or fish or right angles happening because of the arrows. There's not even a rhyme or reason to put all those things together.
Often evidence that any of this crap is the reality. You're bent fucking space moving things. And there's a better theory, one that unifies all.
We all know there's a better theory because these theories don't all fit together yet. We also know that that theory is not your theory. It's some other theory.
The forces. And yeah, that logically I recognize, oh yeah, what do you go with? The complex pull thing that doesn't make any fucking sense, or the simple push force that explains all the forces.
Right, common sense.
By extension, human common sense. So that the universe, of course, has to be common sense, or else you're an idiot.
No, the universe has to conform to rules, and the rules don't get more complicated as you go down. They get simpler. That's the Occam razor's reality of how basic things function. Okay, the atoms aren't more complicated. Well, that's the wrong way to say it. The elemental function. So you're claiming that you believe in fractals or some other kind of dopey stuff, but even if you believe in fractals, you know that the
Believe in fractals. Okay, everybody, a fractal is a mathematical function. I do believe in them, I believe fractals exist.
underlying relationship is still simpler.
See, it's almost like his whole thing has become an argument against beauty. Fractals are beautiful. I believe in fractals, therefore I must be an idiot. His conclusion is the universe isn't pretty. That's his in the issue of natalism, the issue of politics, the issue of science, whatever. It can't be pretty. But I'm not trying to make it pretty. This is how the shit works in the fucking experiments. We've got to explain it.
Than the complex form that's created out of that underlying relationship. And so you know the kernel is still simpler than the complexification you make by multiplying it.
And frankly, Huxley is showing a little bit of this particular thing, though, by no means any of these problems.
Yeah, well, Huxley is a disgusting hypocrite because he watches you lie and he doesn't do anything about it. He just pretends that Pyrrho is a good sport. So, you know, Huxley is a lying piece of shit just as bad as you.
This has really become sad, and I'm at the point where it's too sad to fill up the sad bucket anymore.
For all the other problems I've been talking about. But about mocking things like virtual particles and stuff, because I don't know what. They're all structures, yeah, there's cabling behind it, you make a system. You don't, to make a mathematical model, hey, when I throw a ball, it's in a parabola. It doesn't mean the ontological implications of whether the parabola exists in real space versus form and all of that. Those are just still issues on the table, right?
Yeah, whatever. So again, this is just rationalizing bullshit talk for the fact that the model isn't right. And you know, it's just glue. It's God of the gap glue.
We're still talking about the thing I'm still talking about in my little part of the video he's played so far is that he's a hypocrite for bitching about things like Huygens and virtual particles, which are mechanisms and, you know, devices to have so you can make calculations and do your actual predictions. He makes up red and blue arrows that go at right angles that doesn't even fit together well enough to make a prediction yet, and never will make a correct prediction. That much is obvious, except for that he, of course, is going to be changing them. So he still has a chance to change them, and no doubt he will. And you're a hypocrite, Gary. That's what I'm saying. For bitching about one people doing something that you're also doing. You're making these red and blue arrows, but you don't remember that that's what you're even talking about. So this is kind of ridiculous.
So instead of finding the right answer, you just engineer fake things. And you're never going to fix it because, again, as I'm pointing out.
Okay, right. Fake things like red and blue arrows.